Chapter 97. Three Ancestral Gods. Basked under the light of the setting sun, the entire Dark Vale Island resembled a golden leaf that was floating on the black surface of the sea. On the island, plumes of smoke were rising up from cooking fires in the mortal villages concealed within the forests, and more ships had also appeared on the dock. Several cultivators of the island were patrolling the area, and they were all very pleased by how peaceful it had been since the last attack from the Cold Crystal race. The entire Luo clan had almost been wiped out during the battle that had taken place close to a year ago, and it was all thanks to their ancestral god that the crisis was averted. At this point, they had no ambitions other than to remain here peacefully and continue to cultivate while protecting this land that they called home. All of a sudden, the leader of the patrol team stopped in his tracks before casting his gaze toward the distance. "What's wrong?" The rest of the team also quickly stopped to see what was happening. All of a sudden, the surface of the sea in the distance began to churn violently, and a series of massive waves that were hundreds of feet tall rose up before crashing toward the island. Before long, enormous waves had risen up over the surface of the sea as far as the eyes could see, and all of the waves were converging toward the island, while the surrounding earth rumbled and quaked violently. The group of cultivators was greatly alarmed to see this, and their leader hurriedly pulled out a cylindrical object before tugging on a fuse, upon which a burst of dazzling light erupted into the heavens. Unbeknownst to them, the sea, in a radius of dozens of kilometers around the entire island, was churning violently like boiling water, and massive waves were converging toward the island from all directions. A streak of light quickly flew out of the Luo clan's main hall before revealing itself to be Luo Feng. His spiritual sense had already encompassed the entire island and the surrounding sea, and a grim look had appeared on his face. Several more streaks of light arrived on the scene from different directions before gathering themselves around Luo Feng, and they were the other body integration stage elders of the island. They had clearly also noticed what was happening around the island, and all of them were greatly alarmed by what they were seeing. Right at this moment, all of the giant waves crashing toward the island suddenly converged to form an enormous barrier of water, which rose up all around the island before gathering toward its center. In the blink of an eye, the entire island had been encompassed beneath a gargantuan, transparent barrier of water. Luo Feng and the others were even more alarmed to see this. "What's going on, Chief? Could it be?" "We're being attacked, and these enemies are more powerful than any we've ever dealt with before. Inform Elder Lu, right away," Luo Feng instructed with an urgent expression. The elder that he had delegated the order to immediately sped away toward Hunley's courtyard without any hesitation. "Activate all of the island's restrictions," Luo Feng ordered as he turned to the rest of the elders. A few seconds later, several bursts of light emerged around the main hall as one restriction was activated after another, covering all of the important locations on the island. Right at this moment, 3 incredibly bright streaks of light appeared in the distant sky before flying toward the Luo clan's main hall at an incredible speed. In what seemed like nothing more than the blink of an eye, the streaks of light arrived on the scene, then receded to reveal 3 figures. The trio was led by an imposing man in a suit of engraved white armor with a hollow visor on his face. The visor only covered the top half of his face, and there was a pair of curved tusks protruding out of his mouth, giving him a very fearsome appearance. Beside the white-armored man was a black-robed elderly man with a dark complexion, and there was faint blue light glowing within his eyes. The third person to round out the trio was a blue-robed woman who appeared to be in her 40s. She still retained most of her elegance from her younger days, but her beauty was marred by a rather unsightly hooked nose. What was most peculiar was that the 3 of them all possessed rather wooden and dazed facial features, as if this were a trio of extremely intricately crafted puppets. Luo Feng's face instantly turned deathly pale at the sight of the trio, and his entire body shuddered as if he had seen a ghost. The other elders and some of the older cultivators of the island were also displaying similar reactions. Most of the younger cultivators of the Luo clan had no idea who these three people were, but the expressions on the faces of their chief and elders told them everything that they needed to know, and they also became extremely uneasy. Luo Feng exhaled as if he were trying to expel the fear in his heart, then forcibly composed himself as he asked, "Ancestral god Hun Chu, ancestral god Lu Kun, ancestral goddess Gu Gu, to what do I owe this honor?" All of the younger cultivators of the Luo family were horrified to hear this. Most of them weren't aware of who Lu Kun and Gu Gu were, as they were ancestral gods of islands that were quite far away from Darkvale Island. But they all knew that Hun Chu was the ancestral god of the cold crystal race that had invaded their island not long ago. And it could be said that he had already been a sworn enemy of the Luo clan for tens of thousands of years. The three ancestral gods were each standing over 1,000 feet away from one another, looking down at the horrified residents of Darkvale Island, and their already wooden and emotionless eyes were looking particularly cold and forbidding. "Fellow Taoist Hun Chu, are you sure Luo Meng has already met his demise? I heard that the army of your cold crystal race suffered severe losses during its last invasion of the island," the black-robed elderly man said, with a hint of doubt in his voice. "If he's still alive, then why hasn't he appeared at all in the past 10,000 years? As for the defeat that my army suffered during the last invasion, that was only at the hands of another immortal who recently appeared on Darkvale Island," the white-armoured man harumphed coldly. "What? Another immortal? You never mentioned this to us at all, fellow Taoist Hun Chu! Did you intentionally withhold this information from us?" the blue-robed woman accused in a furious voice. The black-robed elderly man also turned to the white-armoured man with his brows furrowed slightly in displeasure. "Rest assured, fellow Taoists, I've already looked into the matter, and it turns out that this new immortal is a lower realm cultivator who's only just ascended into the immortal realm. I don't know how he ended up here, but he's not a cause for concern at all. Also, if there were no immortals on this island, then why would I have invited you two to help me?" Hun Chu asked in an indifferent voice. The blue-robed woman's expression eased slightly upon hearing this, but she still didn't seem to be entirely convinced. As for the black-robed elderly man, he also remained silent and refused to take a stance on the matter. Instead of being frustrated by this, a smile appeared on Hun Chu's face as he said, "How about this? If we succeed here, I'm willing to offer each of you an extra Divine Bright Noon pill in addition to the reward I originally promised you. That'll serve as compensation for my failure to notify you of the situation ahead of time. What do you think? Seeing as you're displaying so much sincerity, it would be rude for fellow Taoist Gu Gu and me to doubt you any further," the black-robed elderly man chuckled. The blue-robed woman also nodded in response. Han Chu was very pleased to see this. "I'm glad we're all on the same page now. We're only dealing with a recently ascended cultivator from a lower realm. How could he possibly stand against all three of us at once? In that case, let's not delay any further," the black-robed elderly man said as he sprang into action. With a sweep of his hand, a burst of rumbling rang out from the sea down below, and dozens of enormous pillars rose up. Each pillar was over 100 feet in diameter, and they extended all the way up into the heavens. The pillars of water then quickly fused as one to form a gargantuan hand that was several thousand feet in size before crashing down upon Luo Feng and the group of elders around him. Even before the enormous hand arrived, a gust of ferocious wind swept through the area, and all of the restrictions swayed violently as the fierce wind threatened to blow them apart. In fact, several of the restrictions had already disintegrated into specks of light. Luo Feng's expression changed drastically upon seeing this, and he wanted to take evasive measures, but it was already too late, and it seemed that his fate was sealed. Right at this moment, a sharp, screeching sound rang out in the distance, and a streak of azure light arrived on the scene like lightning. The streak of light contained an azure figure who launched a fist through the air, releasing a burst of tremendous force. The enormous force unleashed by the punch left a series of ripples that were visible even to the naked eye in its wake, then crashed into the gargantuan hand of seawater with an earth-shattering boom. The giant hand instantly exploded upon impact, sending massive volumes of water cascading down in all directions. A burst of ferocious shockwaves erupted through the air in destructive waves, sweeping up fierce hurricanes that either blew all of the rocks and trees in their path into the distance or pulverized them on the spot. Thankfully, there weren't any mortals nearby, so not many casualties were suffered. The azure light around the figure in the sky faded to reveal Han Li, and Han Chu and the elders' expressions changed drastically upon seeing this. Esteemed ancestral god. Everyone on Darkvale Island cheered in unison in ecstatic voices. Luo Feng also heaved a sigh of relief, but a hint of concern then immediately appeared on his face. Han Li was indeed a formidable cultivator, but he was facing 3 ancestral gods at once. "What business do you have with our Darkvale Island fellow Taoists?" Han Li asked in a cold voice as he swept his gaze across the trio before him while withdrawing his outstretched fist. "Senior Lu, these 3 are all ancestral gods from nearby islands. The one in the suit of white armor is ancestral god Han Chu of the Cold Crystal race. The black-robed man beside him is Patriarch Lu Kun, and that woman is referred to as Mistress Gu Gu," Luo Feng explained through voice transmission. Han Li's heart stirred slightly upon hearing this, but his expression remained completely unchanged. "You seem to have told us that this was going to be an easy battle, but I don't think things are quite as you described, fellow Taoist Han Chu. This man is clearly a profound immortal, is he not?" Lu Kun said via voice transmission as he turned to Han Chu with a cold look in his eyes, and Mistress Gu Gu's expression had also darkened significantly. In contrast, Han Chu was as calm as ever, and he replied via voice transmission. "According to my knowledge, it hasn't even been a year since he ascended to the Immortal realm. Even if he is a profound immortal, there's no way he would have had enough time to convert the magic power in his body into immortal spiritual power, so we have nothing to worry about." Patriarch Lu Kun and Mistress Gu Gu exchanged a glance upon hearing this, and neither of them said anything. You must be fellow Taoist Lu. I'm sure I don't need to tell you the reason for our visit. Darkvale Island is a sworn enemy to all 3 of our islands, and we've come here today with the goal of wiping out the Luo clan. This has nothing to do with you, so I suggest you do not get involved. If you leave right now, I can let bygones be bygones and forgive the fact that you killed several members of my clan a while ago." Han Chu said in a cold voice. Luo Feng's heart jolted slightly upon hearing this, and he snuck a rather uneasy glance at Han Li. The expressions on the faces of all of the other members of the Luo clan also changed drastically upon hearing this. The older ones among them were alarmed by the situation, while the younger ones were shocked by what Han Chu had just said. Han Chu had referred to their ancestral god as fellow Taoist Lu, and that reminded all of the young members of the Luo clan of a rumor that had been circulating in their clan, stating that their current ancestral god was actually someone other than Luo Meng. The elders of their clan had always fervently denied this notion and prohibited the members of the clan from spreading and discussing the rumor, but it seemed that there was a very good chance that the rumor was actually true. "I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. I made a promise to protect Darkvale Island, and I don't plan to go back on my word. I suggest you turn back before things get out of hand," Han Li replied with a calm expression, completely ignoring Han Chu's threat.